Islamic community, and that is unjust. I find that deeply troubling. You cannot lump these people into the Islamic community.
Okay.
We have probably around 50,000 Muslim doctors in the United States that are treating people. People are putting their lives on the line with these doctors and trusting them, and this is going on every single day in the United States.
Now,
people need to remember that.
Now, just a day ago, there was an article in the Washington Post by Asra Nomani, a Muslim academic and writer, who says that perhaps the King hearings are a good thing because she feels there is radicalization in the US Muslim community and that it's about time it's explored and revealed. Now, I wonder what validity there is, in your opinion, of this idea of talking openly about this, perhaps just getting it all out in the open, and perhaps these hearings could produce something positive.
Well, I think there is some radicalization. There certainly, we had some of the East African community in the United States that were immigrants that went back to Somalia and ended up involved in whatever was going on over there. There's been plots that have been foiled, undeniably. But again, these are individuals or small groups that do not reflect the overall Muslim community. And I think the problem with highlighting and focusing on these, instead of seeing them as just criminality that needs to be prevented, and by politicizing them, you end up creating this sense that, oh, my next door neighbor's a terrorist, Ghulam or Ahmed or Abdullah down the road, and you see a Muslim in a scarf and suddenly fear is created. I think that's where I have a deep problem with what's going on, because it demonizes a group. And the definition of enfranchisement is when the whole group is not blamed for the actions of individuals. When an individual does something in the United States who happens to be a Muslim, the entire community is still affected by that. And until that changes, I think people need to have more responsibility and an awareness that they have a civil duty not to create these types of scare tactics. And one really important point is this has immense impact on America's image abroad in the Muslim world. This country has profound interests in the Muslim world. We are still dependent on foreign oil, and there are powerful ties to the Muslim world. And if you demonize the Muslims, not only does it make it acceptable to, say, attack a place like Iran, which I'm deeply troubled by that possibility, but because innocent people end up being terrorized over there. And that's another problem, because that creates more extremism. So I think it's really important to remember that there are international implications to what's going on.
I'm going to squeeze in a call from Somalia. Wesley, thanks for being with us. Go ahead, Wesley.
I didn't mean to offend Somalia.
Yes,
Go ahead.
My question is, I've heard so many times a discussion about Islamophobia in the United States. Will it not be fair to also have a discussion about the way minorities and Christians are being treated from Pakistan to the Middle East?
Sheikh Hamza?
In the Middle East?
I guess, yeah. If you take
Are
that
you
approach,
saying
yeah.
the mistreatment?
I think that's the
the mistreatment.
View, yeah.
Well, I think this is a common. I think this is very common amongst Muslims. Is that we do have a double standard. We kind of attack the West, but we tend to ignore the very serious problems in our own countries, in Muslim majority countries. So I think he's bringing up a very good point. I personally am horrified by a lot of the attitudes towards South Asians in certain areas in the Middle East. Undeniably, the way that Filipino maids have been treated, the way that workers are treated in some of the countries is deeply troubling. So, yeah, I think that we need to get out of a tribal mentality. We need to get out of tribalism and really address issues as right and wrong issues. And I think if we use a rational basis for doing a lot of that I think we can agree on a lot of things on both sides. But unfortunately, emotionalism and tribalism can be America, we're number one, is a type of tribalism. I think Bani Islam, the idea that my tribe right or wrong, Muslims are always right, Kafirs are always wrong. These type of attitudes, which I define as melodramatic, are very problematic in a world that's becoming increasingly interdependent. So we really need to start attempting, to the best of our ability, to transcend some of these attitudes.
Now, Sheikh Hamza, I just have 1 minute now. You mentioned the protests on the February the 13th in Orange County. When you have people just coming out, there's a charity group, Muslim charity group doing work there, and you get a protest that's anti-Muslim. Just in less than a minute, how do you engage with people like that, where there seems to be a blind hatred and prejudice?
Well, I think, you know, to be fair to these people, they're frightened. One of the speakers apparently was known for some extreme statements, and I think they have YouTube. That's on the YouTube, even though that was not what that charity fundraiser was about. But I think people are scared. A lot of people left that protest when they started getting aggressive in their verbal abuse of the people. There were children present, things like that. So a lot of the people just left, and it was down to a few hundred people. But I think it's important for Muslims to acknowledge, in the same way I think it's important for Americans to acknowledge a lot of the pain of Muslims, I think it's important for Muslims in the United States to acknowledge a lot of the fear that many Americans have.
Well, Sheikh Hamza, I'm sorry we have no more time, but thank you so much for your contribution to the show today.
Okay, well, thank you, Riz. All the best to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us too with your questions. Remember, you can follow the show on Facebook, see what we're up to there. You can give us your feedback on topics and post your questions and comments. On the next Riz Khan show, a close-up look at the Libya uprising. Celebrated and controversial French philosopher Bernard-Henri Lévy has just returned from Libya and joins us to share his experience. Make sure you tune in for that. From me and the team, we'll see you next time.
Business Latest is brought to you by the Qatar Tourism Authority and Catalan. Business Latest is brought to you by the Qatar Tourism Authority and Catalan.
All the news, all the time. AlJazeera.net/English.
I felt like our family was a litter. There's always the runt in the family. I just thought, gosh, I'm the one that's not going to have anything.
I was always taking